the happiest people I know were very uncertain for a long time. And their decisions, I saw this on Dirty Jobs over and over, people ultimately wound up in their vocation because they looked around to see where everybody else was going, and they went the other way. And then what they were confronted with was, okay, there's an opportunity cleaning septic tanks.
Right.
It's not my wish fulfillment, but it needs to be done and nobody's doing it. A year later, you're getting good at it. 2 years after that, you got 3 trucks and 5 employees. Pretty soon, you're passionate about other people's crap because now you've made a pile of money and now you have 2 homes.
And no one else wants to do it.
That's right. So you've got job security. Nothing's going to be outsourced. And you're kind of, I used to say about so many of the guys I met on Dirty Jobs that they're all in on the joke. And by that, I just meant, you know, when you meet another professional athlete and you start talking about a training routine,
Right.
you go right to the shorthand.
Yeah.
You get it.
Yes.
You get it. When you talk to a soldier or a Marine who's been in action, and you have too, you just get right to the part, right? And so people with dirty jobs, they get it.
Right.
Whether you're hanging upside down on the Golden Gate Bridge, you know, spot welding, or whether you're just crawling through the sewers of San Francisco, knocking out those rotten bricks and putting in new ones, you get it, right? And so the idea and the big lesson that came from working with so many of those people for so long was that, by and large, as a group, they were happier than most of my friends. They were better balanced than most of my friends. And they had just the kind of peace, I think, that comes from knowing if, I call it the It's a Wonderful Life test, right? Another movie you probably don't remember because you were born in 1983. But if you're somehow magically pulled out of existence, like right now, right, what happens to the world? You know, what happens to the world if poof, I'm gone? You know, and Dirty Jobs never happened. Is the world going to spin off its axis? No. Right. You know what? You know, if poof, an accountant is gone. Poof. You know, it's like, so you tend to measure, at least I do anyway, you know, can I do something that's fundamentally going to change a thing? Dirty jobbers do. All the plumbers call in sick for a week, party over.
Right.
All the electricians call out for 2 days,
Game over.
riot. Right. So, you know, it's odd that the jobs that we all depend on most are the most underappreciated in our society. And so the people who do those jobs, they know that. They're in on it. And by and large, it makes them really fun to be around.
What was the most surprising person you met during the Dirty Jobs process that really shifted something in you or inspired you in a different way? Because you've probably seen the same type of stories, the same type of people for 10 years doing the show. But was there one person that you were like, wow, something actually shifted in me where I wasn't just, not that you were on autopilot, but just like, whoa, something different here?
No. There were hundreds. I mean, we did 300. And of the 300 jobs we did, I can tell you, you know, I talk a lot about this when companies, you know how they are. Every now and then somebody will overpay you to come and stand in front of a bunch of people.
Absolutely.
And, you know, let me tell you what the problem is. Right? So people pay me to do that. And just to keep the conversation lively, I try and mix up the answers a bit. But all of my answers come back to what the Greeks called a peripeteia. And a peripeteia is a form of an anagnoresis. And an anagnoresis is the Greek word for a discovery. So Aristotle said the definition of a tragedy was the moment when the protagonist comes face to face with his true self. Right? And I love that.
Sure.
So for me, Dirty Jobs was a tragedy because going all the way back, hey, Freddie, what are you growling at? Come here. This is my dog, by the way. I didn't properly introduce you. She's growled at Tiffany.
Tiff got close.
Yeah. This is Bring Your Dog to Work Day. You going to be a good boy or what? Come on, don't be an asshole. We talked about this. Embarrass me in front of everybody.
He's so good.
Here we
He's
go.
Fine.
The idea that an anagnoresis or a discovery can drive the narrative forward is classic. But the idea that a peripeteia which is a discovery that fundamentally changes the direction of the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love. So, like, you know, when Bruce Willis realizes in the beginning of The Sixth Sense,
Mm-hmm.
you saw The Sixth Sense?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great, because that came out after 1983. I think. You know, he has an anagnorisis in the beginning of that film when he meets little Cole, and Cole is crazy because Cole thinks he sees dead people. And over the course of the movie, Bruce makes more discoveries about Cole, and eventually, toward the end, he makes a big discovery. He has a peripeteia when he realizes this kid is not crazy at all, and he really can see dead people. Why? Because he's dead.
Right.
Right? And so when that happens, the entire narrative changes. So that's a long answer to your question, but for me, I had peripeteias doing dirty jobs one after the next.
Really?
Oh, my God.
Wow.
So, for instance, I talked about this years ago at one of those TED Talks,
Yeah.
right? But it was like I've always deferred to the primacy of experts. We're taught, right? There's an expert opinion on everything.
Yes.
And getting that expert opinion as a host on the Discovery Channel was always important because Discovery was dedicated to making sure all the facts that went out were correct.
Mm-hmm.
And because Dirty Jobs was what it was, I was constantly getting angry emails from a whole army of acronyms, from EPA to OSHA to SPCA. Like
Everyone,
they would all see something on the screen, and they would freak out. And so we go to castrate lambs in Craig, Colorado, and I call the SPCA and I call the Humane Society and I say, look, we're going to be castrating lambs on the show. I want to make sure we do it right because the last time we
you don't want to offend anyone. Yeah.
I don't want to offend anyone, and they were all upset because a couple months earlier I'd gone to a ranch in outside of Houston and collected the semen from a bull called Hunsucker Commando and artificially inseminated a bunch of cows.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently it was great TV, but they were like, no, you're doing it all wrong. So I called and said, how are we going to do this right? And they said the right way to do it is you take a rubber band and you put it around the testicles of the sheep. And over the course of a couple days, the testicles fall off.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm like, all right, well, that sounds what it is. It'll be interesting TV. So we go there to do the job.
You have a time lapse for 2 days? You see it?
Well, I don't know what we're going to do.
Right.
Because I never did on Dirty Jobs. We always showed up. There was no pre-production. There was no plan. There was no second take.
See what happens, yeah.
Right. I mean, it was a very, very honest show. And the rancher was a guy named Albert, and he and his wife, Melody, they brought the first lamb out, and they put him up on the fence post. And Albert reaches in his pocket and pulls out one of those rubber bands, like the Humane Society told me, except it's not a rubber band. It's a switchblade.
Oh, man.
He pops it open, and he leans down, and he grabs the scrotum, and he pulls the scrotum towards him, and he clips off the tip of the scrotum. And then he pushes the scrotum back, exposing both testicles, which look like thumbs on a little lamb. And then he bends down and he bites them off.
Oh, my gosh.
And then he spits them in a bucket I'm holding. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing, dude? What happened? My little show
What
just
happened
turned
with the
into
rubber band?
Right, it's like now it's suddenly a German porno or something. Like, what are you doing? So I say, cut, stop. Which I never say on Dirty Jobs. And I said, Albert, look, I get it. You've watched the show. You want to be sensational. You want to do something that's going to be all great for reality TV. You don't have to do that on this show. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've been ranching for 4 generations.
This is how we do it.
This is how we do it. This is how we've always done it. And I'm like, okay, look, I don't know what kind of operation you're running here, but you're freaking me out. Can we just please do it the way the Humane Society does? And he says, well, it's not very nice. I'm like, not very nice. You just bit the balls off a sheep, dude. Come on, man. Let's just do it right. So we start filming again. And Albert goes to like this tackle box, and he comes back with these bands, and his wife puts the little lamb up, and Albert puts the band over, and he put the lamb down. And now the lamb is just, trembling. And this poor creature walks off into the corner of the pen and just kind of sits down. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, Jesus,
the pain.
Like, how long? How long is he going to be like this? He said, about 2 days.
Oh, my gosh.
Meanwhile, the one he had just orally violated.
It's fine. It's walking around.
Looking around, no blood,
Wow.
not a care in the world. Back with his mom, and they're like trotting off over the Rockies to pursue a life of religious lamb fulfillment or whatever they do. And I'm just like, you know something? It was one of those peripeteias where it actually clicks in your head. And the lesson on that day was beware of experts. You know, just beware of the idea that one size fits all. It looks so much kinder, but it's not.